So let's move on to adaptations here. So structure relates function. Oops, let's go on here. Structure relating to function is a real important principle. Oops, I have a function. So structure and function is super important. We talked earlier about the birds' beaks, especially Darwin's finches and the Galapagos. It's shaped according to what it eats. And the accordion shape of the cactus, it needs to expand and contract depending on how much water it receives. A lot of times in the desert you get really big inundations and then nothing for a long time. So you need to be able to expand and absorb that water for later on when it's not going to rain. So adaptations help an organism in its habitat, or its environment. And typically these do not develop during the lifetime, but usually subsequent generations get those adaptations. So, see, lifetime. This is kind of controversial, different now, because it's been shown that during our lifetime we can shut off some genes and activate others, and that can affect how some of our chemical reactions happen in our cells. So exciting area of research that we can actually evolve as we live our lives. But typically we're looking at these traits being passed on to genes to offspring. And again, my apologies, I don't have my graphics pad with me today. So the Bactrian camel, you'll notice we have these two humps, and I'm not sure if you know, but yeah, in these humps, people think, oh, it's water stored in there. It's not. So H2O, no, it's actually fat. Extra energy reserves, and there is some water stored in that fat along with that energy supply. But other adaptations, it has special nostrils it can shut off, and also eyelids to keep out the sand. You can see it has a nice thick coat here. This helps to insulate, not just when it's cold in the winter, which it does get in Northern Asia, but that thick coat of fur helps to keep the heat out so it doesn't hit the skin. And you'll notice it's a light color, so it can reflect the light, the heat rays back, so it doesn't heat up. Also, it's got kind of large padded feet where it can go across soft sand, but pretty amazing. The other kind of camel is the dromedary camel. So Bactrian and dromedary, those are your two main types of camels. So we see these birds, we know this eagle, that's really good for meat. Okay, tearing, clawing. Here, this is good for fishing. This is an egret. This tropical bird here, this is good for seeds and nuts. Sorry, that's terrible. Seeds, nuts. And we see this woodpecker. It's good for creating holes in wood. I just saw one of these up in Hollywood, or near Hollywood, and I was hiking up to the sign with my kids. Beautiful, really colorful. So yeah, I just kind of explained those diet methods. So a ground hornbill, it's one baby every 3 years. That's almost like human reproduction. A lot of investment into just one offspring. Coconut palm, 20 to 60 coconuts per year. So it's creating a lot more potential offspring for it. And then one rabbit can make 120 babies in 1 year. So one rabbit to 120, actually two, if you have a mating pair. That's a huge reproductive rate. But in general, they produce more than can survive. So remember we talked about all animals and plants, that they actually, all the seeds survived and then reproduced to make more offspring. It would be crazy out here. We're talking about our dogs. I like dogs, but to open my door and see 20 or 30 staring at me every day, I don't think so. But since we over reproduce, we make a struggle. There's a struggle for survival among the offspring, because we have limited resources. There's a limited amount of food we can get for our pets and any kind of animal. We look here, look at this one tree, look at all these seeds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Say there's 50. So just here we have 50, 100, 150, 200, probably 300 seeds. Man, that's a lot. That's in one tree. No way we have 300 trees come from that. Same thing here. All these little cute little turtles trying to get to the ocean, they're going to get eaten out here. You're going to have like a big shark come through and just start chomping on it. But not just the sharks, but all sorts of sea creatures are going to come and just chomp those up. And I can't draw a bird, but say this is a bird. Woo! I'm going to take those out, and then say crabs and whatnot. And then you might only get this one, and this one, and maybe this one survive. But it seems sad, but that's okay. That's a good thing, because the ecosystem can't sustain more than that. And all this energy is getting pushed up through the food chain. As we know, a food chain is important. We lose that. So over reproduction we have a struggle to survive, struggle for resources. So over reproduction, struggle for resources. If we looked at every one of those, we see variation. We also see how we looked at it genetically. We see how they were similar to their parents. So inheritance. We would also see, those changes we would get from mutation. Maybe a couple of them look a little different. That could have come from different, new combinations, but definitely from new mutations that come about. We can see how there might be a slight change, slight difference. We know that even a small one over time can add up, and we get evolution change over time. And adaptation, yeah. If we look at the structure, they're well adapted to the environment. Not perfect, no organism is perfectly adapted, but we have, look at the shape, the color, the habits, the behavior. They all help that turtle survive. And we would also see, when they do become adults, differential. They all don't mate and reproduce the same amount of babies, so that's differential reproduction. We see that too. So luck does influence which offspring survive. It's not just luck, but it can. The characteristics. So the characteristics meaning, the color, the shape, the habits, just the genetics of those turtles. Let's see. that help survival live. The ones that do end up surviving long enough will pass on adaptations that help it survive. And the ones with less helpful, they will die and produce less fertile offspring. So you don't have to just die to have trouble in evolution, but just having fewer babies can do it, can seal your fate. And over time, the population will reflect characteristics that help, and that's what natural selection is. What we see out there help those organisms survive.